today's press conference. Following the Foreign Affairs Council, it's the first Foreign Affairs Council of the year, so Happy New Year to all of you. The HRVP will brief you on the outcome of the meeting, of today's meeting, and then he will have the time to take a couple of questions. Thanks, HRVP, you have the floor.
Good evening. The first fact of the year could not have started with another issue than with the war in Ukraine. Unfortunately, 2023 has not seen any interruption of the fighting. The military situation is unchanged, but don't confuse the stability in the front line with operational calm. There is no operational calm. By the contrary, there are very violent combats on the Donbass, around the city of Bakhmut, and a little bit more to the north, in the oblast of Lysychansk. The fight is very fierce, and there is a lot of casualties in this fight. So we had to start the first year talking about Ukraine. Talking about Ukraine because Russia continues its systematic, barbaric attacks on Ukrainian cities, killing civilians and destroying civilian infrastructures. Everybody has seen the horrible images from Dnipro in one of the most deadliest single attacks against civilians since the start of the war, with more than 40 people, including 6 children, killed. Ukraine is resisting with courage and determination, and let me tell you that we will continue our support to Ukraine. Ukraine has to win this war, and we will support on the best possible way. It's almost a year since Russia invaded Ukraine. We confirmed to the Ukrainian Foreign Minister, Dmytro Kuleba, who joined us via VTC, our collective endeavor will continue as long as it takes. We are preparing the European Union-Ukraine Summit on the 3rd of February. It will be the first summit since the start of the war, and with Ukraine as a candidate country. Deliverables. Today we reached a political agreement for the 7th tranche of military support with an additional 500 million and an additional assistance measure worth 45 million for the Ukrainian force being trained by our military training mission, by EU Man Ukraine that I visited before Christmas in Poland. This brings the total military support under the European Peace Facility to 3.6 billion. Second, we support Ukraine's initiative for a just peace. But this is the military assistance or support from the European Union budget or from the Intergovernmental Fund. But keep in mind the figure of 49 billions. 49 billions is the total amount of support to Ukraine, military, financial, economic, and humanitarian. Almost 50 billions. This means that the European Union is ranking the first one, member states and European institutions all together. We are ranking the first on our support to Ukraine. Second, our support for the Ukraine's initiative for a just peace. We will continue supporting the substance of this proposal to ensure the broadest possible global support. And for that, we will insist on the two key elements: Ukraine's independence, sovereignty, and territorial integrity within its internationally recognized borders, and Ukraine's inherent right of self-defense. And third, need for accountability. It's Russia that is on the side of war, on the side of the violation of international law. And Ukraine stands for peace and taking initiatives in this regard. We have not seen any genuine willingness from Russia regarding a fair and sustainable peace. We have been working also on the options for accountability mechanism. Work is ongoing on the United Nations to this end, for this purpose, including in the context of the next United Nations General Assembly, which we fully support. And central of this work is to preserve the critical role of the International Court in international criminal justice. It's a large support for establishing an international prosecutor office in The Hague as the first step for accountability. Then the sanctions. There is a lot of debate about sanctions, the effectiveness of the sanctions, the price caps on oil and gas. And let me show just this image. Where is the image?
Slide.
As you can see, the blue and red lines are the price of the barrel of Russian oil and the Brent, North Sea and Urals. You can see both are completely identical. They were completely identical until the starting of the war and the imposing of the price cap. Today, the Russian oil is being sold at 40 euros a barrel. Brent is at 80. It means that the Russian oil is being sold at a discount of 50%. And it's being bought by mainly India and China. And for the first time, the oil market of the Russian oil is driven by demand. 40%. Russia needs 70% in order to balance its budget. So it's losing $40 per barrel. It is a big hit on Russia's financial stability. On Palestine, which was the second issue, the most important point in the agenda, after Ukraine, we met with the Palestinian Prime Minister, Mohammed Estayef, who joined us during the lunch and shared with us the dire picture of the situation on the ground, with record Palestinian casualties in the West Bank, a sad record last year, and continuing level of tensions. We will continue our internal discussion after listening how challenges the situation on how we can enhance our bilateral relations further, working at the ministerial level. Everyone in the Foreign Affairs Council reaffirmed the commitment to protect the viability of the two-state solution, giving support on the ground and keeping it a political horizon. We discussed the importance of a clear timeline towards holding national Palestinian elections and progressing with the Palestinian reform plans, and we will continue providing our support for it. The third issue or point in the agenda was the Sahel and the situation in the coastal countries of West Africa. Sahel and the Gulf of Guinea remain a priority for the European Union. Unfortunately, the situation, the security and political situation is becoming worse and worse, and the spillover of the terrorist threat from the Sahel to the coastal states is no longer a risk, is no longer a hypothesis, it's a reality. Our commitment is intact. We have to engage more with our regional partners before the situation becomes critical, and the unacceptable presence of the Russian Wagner mercenaries adds to the current spiral of violence and insecurity. At the end of 2022, we agreed on a new military partnership mission in Niger. It will be launched next month. We also agreed today that we need to do more concrete engagement with the coastal states in the Gulf of Guinea. Ministers agreed on asking the External Action Service to develop a crisis management concept to offer these countries targeted training and support. And we will also deploy military advisors in our European Union delegations. On Iran, the ministers condemned the brutal repression of protesters, in particular the executions. We will continue supporting the right of Iranians in defense of their fundamental human rights. This is a message that I conveyed to the Foreign Minister of Iran several times. Today we adopted the fourth sanctions package under the Iran human rights regime. Fourth sanctions package under the Iranian human rights regime, listing another 37 responsible for this crackdown. This includes high-level figures of the media, political personnel, and also responsible from the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. On Armenia-Azerbaijan, this is another concrete deliverable of the Council today, the establishment of a new fully-fledged civilian mission in Armenia with about 100 staff to observe and report on the situation on the ground to contribute to human security and confidence building between Armenia and Azerbaijan. In Afghanistan, we discussed the appalling developments in Afghanistan with additional restrictions of Afghan women and girls. We are assessing the implication of these latest developments, including through the existing of additional mechanism for holding the Taliban accountable for their human rights violations. The Council in February will take concrete decisions on that. And let me end with a very important issue, which is the Serbia-Kosovo dialogue. I briefed the ministers on the mission of our special representative last week on my behalf, together with the U.S. Deputy Secretary Assistant Escobar and the foreign policy advisors of the leaders of France, Germany, and Italy. All of them traveled to Kosovo and Serbia to continue discussions on the proposal on normalization of relations. We stress that advancing on this proposal would bring considerable benefit for both sides. And I consider that it is the only way to break the vicious cycle of crisis on the ground and reduce the risk for further escalation. We expect serious commitments and readiness to engage constructively in order to make this proposal advance.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start taking the questions from the press room. And David, you have the floor.
Sorry?
Thank you. Merci. David Carretta.
David Carretta.
Radio Radicale.
Radio
Radicale.
Ouais.
Radio italienne. Bonjour.
Yes.
Deux questions sur l'Ukraine, si je peux. La première, quel est votre message au gouvernement allemand et à la ministre Baerbock? Est-ce qu'elle vous a rassuré par rapport à ce que l'Allemagne va faire sur la question des Léopard 2? Et la deuxième question, c'est plus général. Quelle est la crédibilité de l'Union européenne en tant qu'acteur de géopolitique avec une autonomie stratégique, si un pays membre peut bloquer d'autres pays membres qui veulent assister l'Ukraine avec des chars de combat. Merci beaucoup.
Ben, écoutez, je sais bien que la réunion de Ramstein a été dominée pour les débats sur les chars léopards. Mais il faut dire clairement que le résultat de cette réunion a été, du point de vue quantitatif, très important et très positif. Il a été clair, la détermination des États-Unis et de l'Europe d'intensifier leur soutien militaire à l'Ukraine d'une façon éclatante. Si vous regardez les chiffres, les Américains annonçaient 2,5 milliards, les Allemands 1 milliard, les Danois ont décidé de livrer à l'Ukraine l'intégralité au budget César 16, César commandé à la France. Les Suédois ont annoncé la livraison des Harkers, qui est un système d'artillerie parmi les plus performants du monde. La Finlande a annoncé un paquet de 400 millions, soit une somme supérieure à l'ensemble de tous ces engagements antérieurs. J'ai ici la liste de toutes les capacités militaires que les États membres de l'Union européenne se sont engagés à fournir à la réunion de Ramstein, qui était une réunion de coordination. Pendant le Conseil, on a discuté tout ça et c'est évident, la ministre des Affaires étrangères l'avait déjà dit avant que l'Allemagne ne bloque pas que d'autres pays qui veulent le faire puissent exporter ces chars léopards. Donc, l'Allemagne ne bloque pas les exports des chars léopards.
La deuxième question va à Noureddin.
Good evening, Mr. Borrell. Noureddin Fridi from Al Arabian News Channel. I have a couple of questions. Madame Colonna, the French Foreign Affairs Minister this morning, said that it's time for the European to think together about appropriate answer to the Iran hostage policy. I would like to ask you, did you discuss this issue? Are you thinking to have a common European action regarding the issue of the European hostage in Iran? My second question is a very regular one. Do you still believe that the JCPOA is still alive? Do you think that there is opportunity to revive it despite the very tense and very complex situation in relation with Iran? Thank you.
Well, avec l'Iran, il y a les problèmes, comme j'ai dit avant, de la répression des manifestations, des manifestants, la peine capitale, les armes à la Russie, le nombre de dual nationals, des personnes qui sont à la fois iraniennes et nationaux de plusieurs États membres qui sont arrêtés en Iran. Tout ça, évidemment, ça a été discuté. Et ça fait un ensemble qui évidemment fait difficile, si besoin était, d'avancer dans les négociations pour l'accord nucléaire, que je peux dire pour l'instant, il est en stand-by. Il n'est pas mort, mais il ne bouge pas.
Third question, Noureddin.
Did you discuss a possible European action to get the Iran, let's say, allow the European citizen who are hostage or condemned in Iran, like Mr. Olivier Van de Castel and others, coming back to their countries? Thank you.
On a approuvé un 4e paquet de sanctions contre l'Iran, comme je vous ai dit.
Okay, James. Run.
Thank you, Nabila. Joe Barnes from the Daily Telegraph of London. Of the €500 million tranche you've just announced for new kind of lethal aid for Ukraine, would you be proud to see that entirely donated or given back to member states that donate tanks to Ukraine, given that your kind of Ukrainian counterpart has said that is a vital part of helping them win the war against Russia? Thank you.
¿Cuál es la
I think
pregunta?
the translation.
¿Qué es la cuestión?
No, repeat your question.
Sure, no worries,
Joe.
technical difficulties happen. Would you be proud to see the majority of the €500 million that you've agreed today to reimburse member states sending military hardware to Ukraine to be entirely spent on the provision of tanks for Ukraine's army, given that your Ukrainian counterpart, many Ukrainian officials believe that is the main way to help them win the war against Russia? Thank you.
Well, this has to be decided by the board of the European Peace Facility. There is a board where the member states are represented. We match the request from Ukraine with the capabilities of the member states to provide military support. And it's the board who will decide how to distribute these €500 million. I cannot tell you, but why not? But it's a matter of the member states to decide.
And then I will give the last question to Rosie.
Thank you very much, Rosie Burchard, for Feature Story News. On the Sahel and coastal West Africa, you mentioned a couple of concrete actions. So you spoke about military advisors in delegations and a crisis management concept from the EAS. Given the scale of the challenge, you say the situation is deteriorating. Is this enough, or have you got something else up your sleeve? And just quickly, Sergei Lavrov, Russian foreign minister, has been welcomed today in Pretoria in South Africa. The EU and South Africa are strategic partners. Is it a source of concern for you that South Africa still sees Russia as a friend? Thank you.
Sí, en efecto, el ministro Lavrov ha hecho otra gira por África explicando su narrativa y nosotros tenemos una conferencia ministerial a partir de pasado mañana que espero que se desarrolle como todas las conferencias ministeriales tratando los asuntos bilaterales, pero claro, también la situación de la guerra en Ucrania, ¿no? Nada particular. El hecho de que Rusia también despliegue su diplomacia no es nada nuevo. A ver, una pregunta más.
Vous voulez une autre question ou pas?
Sí, parce qu'il y a beaucoup de gens.
Oui, exactement. Donc, Mattia, you have the last question. Ah, you have the
Sorry,
question.
cannot answer all questions. ¿Quién?
Mattia.
¿Quién es Matías?
Ansa.
Thank you for the last question. I'm sorry, I would like to press a little bit on the tank issues because it seems to be one of the most important question of the day. So you said coming into the Council today that the position of the Council is divided on that. I mean, so not all of the member states are agreed on that. So I would like to ask you if there was a tension in the Council on the issue and if you foresee that when this tension can be resolved. Thank you.
No, pero ¿por qué dice usted tensión? Si ha habido en Ramstein una reunión de coordinación donde estaban representados todos los estados, la discusión ya tuvo lugar. Hoy ha habido un intercambio de opiniones y yo quisiera insistir en la idea de que la ayuda militar a Ucrania, el tema de los tanques pesados es importante, pero por favor, valoren ustedes la cantidad de compromisos que salieron de Ramstein para incrementar la ayuda militar con otros muchos más medios. La única novedad que surge de estas discusiones es que, por lo que he entendido, Alemania no va a prohibir la exportación de estas armas si algún país de la Unión Europea que la tenga desea hacerlo.
With this, we are closing today's press conference. We're very sorry because the HRVP has not finished. He still has another meeting to go to. So thank you for your patience and sorry for all the questions we were not able to take today. Thanks a lot.